I woke up on my 18th birthday with a knot in my stomach. 3 years since Mom died from cancer, 10 years since Dad walked out on us. 5 years of living with Marcus, my stepdad, who married Mom when I was 13. The tension in our house had been building ever since we lost her. I could feel something was different today as I walked downstairs. Marcus was waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed. "You're 18 now, Tom. Time to pay rent." His smirk made my blood boil. What he did not know was that my name was on the deed. Before I tell you what happened when I showed him the documents, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to stand up to someone who underestimated you. Growing up, I lived in the house my grandfather built with his own hands in the 1,960 seconds. It was a modest three-bedroom place in a quiet neighborhood in Michigan, but to me it was everything. The creek behind the property, the oak tree with the tire, swing the slightly uneven floorboards in the kitchen that creaked when you stepped on them just right. Every corner held memories. My mother Jennifer was the kindest soul I ever knew. She worked long hours as a nurse at the county hospital, often taking double shifts to make sure I had everything I needed after my father left. She never complained, even when exhaustion was written all over her face. Every night she was home, she would sit on the edge of my bed and tell me stories about her childhood in this very house. My father walked out when I was 8. The gambling had gotten worse, and one day he just disappeared. No goodbye, no explanation, not even a note. Just emptied their joint account and vanished. Mom cried for weeks, but never in front of me. I only heard her through the walls at night. During the day, she was my rock. Grandpa Frank stepped in to fill the void. He lived just 20 minutes away and would pick me up from school when Mom worked late. He taught me how to use tools in his workshop, took me fishing on Saturdays, and told me that being a man meant taking responsibility and protecting the people you love. "Property might be on paper, Tommy," he would say, "but a home is what you build with your heart." When I was 12, Grandpa got sick. Cancer, just like Mom would later. During his final months, he made a decision that would change everything, though I did not understand it then. He put the house in Mom's name, but with specific provisions. I overheard them talking about it, though they tried to keep it from me. "Make sure it goes to Tom," he insisted, "no matter what happens or who comes along." Marcus came along just a few months after Grandpa passed. He met Mom at a hospital fundraiser. He was a pharmaceutical sales executive with a nice car, expensive clothes, and a charming smile. He brought her flowers, took her to fancy restaurants, and made her laugh for the first time in what felt like forever. For that alone, I tried to like him. The wedding was small just a year after they met. I was 13 and uncomfortable in the suit Mom bought me. Something about Marcus always felt off to me, a fakeness behind his smile that never quite reached his eyes. But Mom was happy, so I pushed my reservations aside and shook his hand when he became my stepdad. The change was gradual but unmistakable. After the honeymoon, Marcus started showing his true colors. He controlled the finances, questioned Mom's spending, and criticized everything from her cooking to her clothes. He was especially critical of me. My grades were never good enough. My friends were never the right kind. My hobbies were a waste of time. Mom started working more hours, walking on eggshells at home. Then came the diagnosis when I was 14. Stage 3 breast cancer. The same disease that took Grandpa was now threatening Mom. Marcus showed his true colors during her illness. While I rearranged my entire life to care for her, he was conspicuously absent. Business trips multiplied, late nights at the office became routine, and when he was home, he complained about the medical bills. I became Mom's primary caregiver. I learned to cook her favorite meals that would not make her nauseous after chemo. I scheduled her medications, drove her to appointments after getting my learner's permit, and held her hand through the worst nights. School became secondary. My childhood ended not when Dad left, but when I had to grow up to help Mom fight for her life. During her final days, Mom called me to her bedside when Marcus was out. Her voice was weak, but her eyes were clear and determined. "Tommy, there is something you need to know," she whispered. "The house will be yours when you turn 18. It is all arranged with Mr. Blackwell, our lawyer. Marcus does not know, and you cannot tell him. Promise me." I promised, confused, but trusting her completely. A week later, I accidentally discovered what she meant when I overheard her conversation with Mr. Blackwell, who had come for a home visit. Mom had signed the house over to me with a transfer of deed that would activate on my 18th birthday. She had used her life insurance to pay off the remaining mortgage. The house would be mine, free and clear. Mom died 3 weeks later when I was 15. The hole she left was enormous and aching. The funeral was a blur. And suddenly, it was just Marcus and me in the house that had been my family home for generations. The reading of the will was brief, with Marcus inheriting most of Mom's assets. But Mr. Blackwell gave me a knowing look when he mentioned certain property arrangements to be executed at a later date. Marcus did not notice. The next 3 years were increasingly difficult. Without Mom as a buffer, Marcus's treatment of me deteriorated. He was never physically abusive, knowing that would cross a line that might involve authorities, but his emotional neglect and occasional verbal jabs took their toll. He treated me like an unwelcome houseguest rather than a stepson who had just lost his mother. He brought girlfriends home within months of Mom's death. He redecorated, removing family photos and mementos. He complained about the cost of feeding and clothing me. But I held on silently, counting down the days until my 18th birthday, honoring the promise I made to Mom. The day before I turned 18, I sat by Mom's grave telling her I had kept my promise. I had endured, focused on school, despite everything, maintained the grades for the scholarship to community college, and never breathed a word about the house to Marcus. "One more day, Mom," I whispered to her headstone. "Just one more day, and I will take back our home." My 18th birthday dawned bright and clear, a beautiful April morning that felt significant in ways Marcus could never understand. There was no happy birthday from him, not that I expected one. He had not acknowledged my birthday since Mom died, and I had stopped caring about his approval long ago. I made my own breakfast as usual and was about to head out for school when he cornered me in the kitchen. "We need to talk about your living situation," he said, coffee mug in hand, not even looking at me directly. He was dressed for work in one of his expensive suits, his hair perfectly styled with too much product. "What about it?" I asked, already feeling my heart rate increasing. I had been preparing for this moment for years, but now that it was here, adrenaline coursed through my veins. "You are 18 now. An adult," he said, finally meeting my eyes with a cold stare. "Adults pay rent. Starting today, you will pay $800 a month to continue living here. That is the friend and family rate, significantly below market value for this neighborhood." The number was deliberately impossible. I worked part-time at the local hardware store, making barely enough to cover my school expenses and save a little. $800 was more than 2/3 of my monthly income. He knew that. This was not about money. It was about pushing me out. $800, I repeated, buying time, as I processed the confrontation, due on the 1st of each month. Late payments will incur a $50 fee, and there will be rules. No guests without prior approval. No noise. After 9 p.m. kitchen, use limited to designated hours. Shared spaces must be kept to my standards of cleanliness. He continued, clearly enjoying the power he thought he had over me. I flashed back to 2 weeks earlier when I had accidentally overheard Marcus on the phone with his girlfriend Diane. "Once the kid is out, we can finally renovate this outdated place. I am thinking of knocking down a wall to expand the master bedroom. Maybe convert his room into a home office. The house will be worth at least 30% more with some modern updates. His house, my family home, the place my grandfather built, the last connection I had to Mom." Standing there in the kitchen watching Marcus smirk at me, I felt a mix of rage and an eerie calm. The rage wanted me to scream, to tell him exactly what I thought of him. The calm reminded me of Mom's advice. Sometimes, the best response is the one you do not give until you are ready. That is a lot to consider, I said carefully. I will need to check my budget. His face hardened. This is not a negotiation, Tom. Those are the terms. If you cannot meet them, you need to find somewhere else to live. You have 1 week to decide. Actually, I said quietly, I will get you an answer right now. Let me just grab something from my room. As I walked upstairs, I heard him texting someone. The distinctive sound of his message alerts pinging repeatedly, probably updating Diane on his successful intimidation of his dead wife's son. Little did he know. The legal documents were hidden in a hollowed-out copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, one of Mom's favorite books. Mr. Blackwell had provided me with certified copies months ago, preparing me for this day. The deed, the transfer documents, everything notarized and official. I had read them so many times I had memorized the legal language. Walking back downstairs, I felt an unexpected emotion, pity. Marcus truly believed he had won, that he had successfully pushed me to the breaking point. He had no idea what was coming. He was still standing in the kitchen, phone in hand, a self-satisfied smile on his face. "Well," he asked expectantly. "I have been thinking about your rental proposal," I said, keeping my voice level. "But before I agree to anything, there is something you should probably see." I placed the document folder on the counter between us. "What is this?" he asked, annoyed at what he perceived as a delay tactic. "These are the property documents for this house," I replied. "You might want to look at whose name is on the deed." His face shifted from annoyance to confusion as he opened the folder. I watched as his eyes scanned the first page, then widened in disbelief. He flipped to the next document, then the next, his hands beginning to shake slightly. "This is impossible," he muttered, his voice losing its confident edge. "These are forgeries. The house was Jennifer's. I am her husband." Everything passed to me. Not everything I said, pointing to the specific clause in the transfer deed. Mom put the house in my name before she died, with the transfer to take effect on my 18th birthday, which is today. These documents were filed with the county last week by Mr. Blackwell. The house is legally mine, Marcus. It has been since midnight. His face went through a rapid progression of emotions: shock, disbelief, anger, and finally fear. The color drained from his tanned face, leaving him looking suddenly older and smaller. "You are lying," he snarled, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his uncertainty. "Jennifer would never do this behind my back. This is some kind of scam you and that old lawyer cooked up. Call him," I suggested calmly, pushing the business card that was paper-clipped to the documents. "His number is right there. He will confirm everything." Marcus snatched up his phone, punching in the number with trembling fingers. I could hear Mr. Blackwell's professional tone even from where I stood as he answered. The conversation was brief, one-sided, with Marcus's face growing darker by the second. "This cannot be legal. I will fight this. I will contest it in court," he spat after hanging up. "You can try," I replied, "but the documents are ironclad. Mom made sure of that. She knew exactly what she was doing, Marcus. She knew you. Better than you thought." That was when he lost control. He swept his arm across the counter, sending his coffee mug shattering against the wall. "You ungrateful little shit. After everything I have done for you, living in my house, eating my food, spending my money, it was never your house," I said, maintaining my composure. "And now, I think you should leave." "Leave?" He laughed bitterly. "You cannot kick me out. I have rights. Actually, I can. You have no legal claim to this property. You have never been on the deed, not even when Mom was alive. Grandpa made sure of that. You have been living in my house rent-free for the past 24 hours. And now I am asking you to vacate the premises." His rage escalated as the truth sank in. "You have no idea what you are doing, no idea what you are up against," he threatened, stepping toward me. "I will destroy you." I stood my ground, strengthened by memories of Mom and Grandpa. I am not afraid of you, Marcus. I never really was. I was just keeping a promise. This is ridiculous, Marcus shouted, his facade of control completely shattered. I am calling a real lawyer, not that dinosaur your mother trusted. His hands trembled as he tried to dial, dropping his phone twice in the process. I remained calm, watching him unravel. Years of pent-up anger and resentment wanted to explode out of me. But I channeled Grandpa's steady voice in my head. True power is keeping your cool when everyone else is losing theirs. When his lawyer friend did not immediately answer, Marcus changed tactics. He called Mr. Blackwell back, putting him on speakerphone in an attempt to intimidate me with legal jargon. It backfired spectacularly. The transfer is completely legitimate, Mr. Donovan. Mr. Blackwell explained patiently. Miss Reynolds arranged this before her death, with the provision that the deed would transfer to Thomas upon his 18th birthday. The paperwork was filed years ago and automatically processed yesterday. Thomas is now the sole legal owner of the property at 1421 Oakwood Drive. She had no right to do this, Marcus shouted at the phone. I was her husband. She had every right, came the calm reply. The house was never marital property. It was her separate asset inherited from her father with specific provisions. I suggest you gather your belongings and comply with Thomas's request for you to leave the premises. After hanging up, Marcus's rage found a new target. You think you have won. You have no idea what is really going on. I have plans for this house. I have already talked to realtors about listing it. The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. You were planning to sell my family home. Of course I was. Do you think I want to live in this outdated dump forever? I have debts to pay off. This place, sitting on an acre of land in a developing area, is worth a fortune to the right developer. In his fury, he had revealed too much. What debts, Marcus? His face flushed. That is none of your business. Gambling debts, I asked, the pieces suddenly falling into place. The mysterious weekend trips. The cash withdrawals from what I thought were Mom's accounts. History repeating itself in the worst way possible. His silence was confirmation enough. The parallel to my father's abandonment was too perfect, too painful. But unlike my father, Marcus had stayed, not out of love for me or even Mom, but for the house, for what he thought it could give him. You never loved her, did you? I asked the question that had haunted me for years, finally finding voice. His laugh was cold and empty. Love your mother was convenient. A nurse with a paid-off house and decent life insurance. Do you know how perfect that looked to me? But then she got sick just like her father. All those medical bills, even with her insurance. If I had known how expensive dying could be, I might have picked someone healthier. Every word was a knife, but also a confirmation of what I had suspected all along. Marcus had never loved Mom. He had never cared about me. We were means to an end, and that end was financial security for him. I found a buyer willing to pay $50,000 above market. He continued, too far gone to filter himself. The paperwork was ready to go next month. All I needed was to get you out of the way. So the rent demand was just to force you out. No teenager can afford $800 a month. You would have been gone within weeks, and this place would have been mine to sell. As his plan unraveled before him, Marcus grew more desperate. He stormed through the living room, knocking over the side table that held Mom's favorite lamp. The crash of breaking ceramic echoed through the house. You will regret this, he threatened. I know people. I can make your life very difficult. I want you out today, I said firmly. Pack your things and leave. You cannot just throw me out. I have tenant rights. You just admitted you never paid rent. You have no lease. And I have evidence of you threatening me and destroying property. I replied, holding up my phone, which had been recording since the beginning of our conversation. Another piece of advice from Mr. Blackwell, who had seen too many situations like this go wrong. Marcus lunged for my phone, but years of built-up resentment gave me unexpected strength. I sidestepped him easily, watching as he stumbled into the coffee table, Get out, Marcus. Now. This is not over, he spat, grabbing his keys and wallet from the counter. I am going to get some air. When I come back, we are going to discuss this like adults. There is nothing to discuss. The locks will be changed in an hour. Take what you need now. His face contorted with rage as he stormed toward the front door, yanking it open with such force that it slammed against the wall. Outside, our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was walking her dog. She stopped in her tracks, witnessing Marcus's meltdown as he kicked over the potted plant by the door. "Everything okay, Tom?" she called, concern in her voice. Before I could answer, Marcus launched into a tirade cursing me, Mom, and the whole conspiracy against him. His public outburst drew attention from other neighbors, with several coming out onto their porches to witness the commotion. As if on cue, my Uncle Robert's truck pulled into the driveway. This was not a coincidence. I had called him last night asking if he could stop by around this time. Uncle Robert was Mom's older brother, a contractor who lived an hour away and had never liked Marcus. He had checked on me when he could over the years, though Marcus had made those visits increasingly difficult. Problem here, Uncle Robert asked his 6'3" frame imposing as he stepped out of his truck. Marcus's courage faltered at the sight of him. "This is a family matter." "Tom is family," Uncle Robert replied simply. "You are the one causing a scene in the neighborhood." Marcus made one last desperate attempt to regain control, rushing back into the house and up to the master bedroom. I followed with Uncle Robert close behind. We found Marcus pulling open drawers, grabbing handfuls of what I soon realized were Mom's jewelry and keepsakes. "Put those down," I demanded. "Those are not yours." "Half of everything was mine. When she died," he retorted, stuffing a pearl necklace that had belonged to my grandmother into his pocket. That was the final straw. Uncle Robert pulled out his phone and called the police. When Officer Wilson arrived, the same Officer Wilson who had coached my Little League team and known Grandpa, the situation de-escalated quickly. "I understand you are being asked to leave the property, Mr. Donovan." Officer Wilson said after I showed him the deed and explained the situation. "This is my house. They are trying to steal it from me. The documentation says otherwise, sir. I am going to have to ask you to gather your personal belongings and vacate peacefully. You can pursue any claims through proper legal channels." Cornered and outnumbered, Marcus finally broke. "Fine. I will get my things. But this is not over, Tom. Not by a long shot." Under the watchful eyes of Officer Wilson, Uncle Robert, and several neighbors, Marcus packed 2 suitcases with clothing and personal items. I caught him trying to slip Mom's silver picture frame into his bag and calmly took it back. As he loaded his car, I stood on the porch of my house, truly my house now, watching the man who had made the last 3 years of my life miserable prepare to exit it forever. "You are making a huge mistake," he said as a parting shot. "You cannot maintain this place on your own. You will be calling me in a month begging for help." "Goodbye, Marcus," I said simply. That night, Uncle Robert helped me change every lock in the house. We ordered pizza toasted with root beer. He insisted on respecting the drinking age, and I slept soundly in my childhood bedroom for the first time in years. For the first few days after Marcus left the house, felt eerily quiet. I had grown so accustomed to walking on eggshells, to the constant undercurrent of tension, that its absence was almost unsettling. I wandered from room to room, running my hands along the walls my grandfather had built, looking at the house through new eyes. Not as a guest or a tolerated presence, but as the owner. The emptiness hit me hardest in Mom's room. Marcus had taken most of the furniture when he left, claiming it was purchased with his money. The bare mattress on the floor, the empty closet with a few wire hangers, the outline on the wall where Mom's favorite painting had hung. It felt like losing her all over again. But there was also freedom in the emptiness. A blank canvas. A chance to reclaim spaces that had been tainted by Marcus's presence. I started small, repainting my bedroom from the drab beige Marcus had insisted on back to the blue Mom had let me choose when I was 12. Each brushstroke felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Uncle Robert stopped by on weekends, teaching me basic home repairs that Marcus had neglected. We fixed the leaking bathroom faucet, replaced the broken porch step, and installed ceiling fans to cut down on the air conditioning bill. Mrs. Patterson from next door brought over her famous lasagna one evening. "Your mother would be so proud of you," she said, giving me a hug that reminded me how long it had been since someone had shown me genuine affection. "We neighbors notice things, you know, how things changed after she passed." "We should have done more. You are doing it now," I assured her. Through Mrs. Patterson, I reconnected with Mom's circle of friends, who Marcus had systematically pushed away after her death. They shared stories of Mom I had never heard, showed me photos I had never seen, and surrounded me with the community Marcus had denied me. The hardest discovery came when Lisa, Mom's best friend from the hospital, mentioned Mom's collection of vintage medical books. She was so proud of those. Her grandmother had been one of the first female doctors in the county, and those books were her legacy. "Did you keep them?" I had no idea what she was talking about. We searched the house, but found nothing. When I called Mr. Blackwell to ask if they had been included in an inventory, he sighed heavily. "Thomas, I think it is time you know that Marcus sold quite a few of your mother's possessions in the months after her death. The books, her grandmother's silver service, some artwork. I tried to intervene, but legally, as her husband, he had the right to dispose of personal property. The loss of these tangible connections to Mom was a new kind of grief. Not just the items themselves, but what they represented. Pieces of our family history that could never be recovered, but anger would not bring them back, nor would it help me move forward." I thought of Grandpa's words, "The past is written in stone, Tom. But tomorrow's page is blank until you pick up the pen." I enrolled in community college, continuing my part-time job at Anderson's Hardware. Mr. Anderson had been Grandpa's poker buddy and had hired me when I was 16. When he learned what happened with Marcus, he increased my hours and gave me a small raise. "Your grandfather was the best damn carpenter in 3 counties," he told me. "I see that same attention to detail in you. If you want to learn the trade, I will teach you." About a month after Marcus left, I received a surprising piece of mail, an eviction notice from Diane's apartment complex with Marcus's name listed as the evicted tenant. Apparently, their relationship had imploded shortly after he moved in with her. According to local gossip, Mrs. Patterson's specialty, Diane had discovered Marcus had been using her credit cards to place online bets. I felt no satisfaction at his downfall, only a dull recognition of patterns repeating, just like my father Marcus's demons had eventually caught up with him. The parallel was both painful and illuminating. Then, 6 months after my 18th birthday, a letter arrived with no return address. The handwriting was vaguely familiar but aged shakier than I remembered. Inside was a 5-page letter from my father. He had been sober for 3 years, was working as a long-haul trucker, and had recently learned of Mom's death through a cousin. He expressed deep regret for abandoning us, acknowledged he had no right to re-enter my life, but wanted me to know he was sorry and had been too cowardly to face the consequences of his actions. I read the letter, 7 times emotions, cycling between anger, confusion, grief, and a strange sense of closure. I did not respond immediately. Some wounds needed time. The comparison between my father and Marcus was unavoidable. Both had failed me, but in different ways. Dad had walked away, while Marcus had stayed physically present while emotionally absent. Both had chosen their addictions over family. But my father's letter showed something Marcus had never demonstrated: accountability. As the seasons changed, so did the house. I decided to honor Mom's memory, not by preserving it as a shrine, but by making it the warm, welcoming place she had always wanted it to be. I converted the basement into a small studio apartment that I could rent out to generate some income. The first tenant was a nursing student from Mom's alma mater, which felt right somehow. With my first semester of college completed with solid grades, I began to feel like my life was finally moving in a direction Mom would approve of. I was studying business with the long-term goal of perhaps opening a small contracting company, combining Grandpa's carpentry skills that I was learning from Mr. Anderson with modern sustainable building practices. The house transformed alongside me. Fresh paint repaired fixtures, a vegetable garden in the backyard where Mom had always wanted one, but Marcus had vetoed. Each improvement was a step further from the darkness of those 3 years, after Mom's death, and closer to the home she had envisioned for me. 1 year after my 18th birthday, while replacing baseboards in what had been Mom's room and was now my home office, I discovered a small metal box hidden in the wall cavity. Inside was a time capsule Mom had created shortly after her diagnosis, letters addressed to me for future milestones. My 21st birthday, my college graduation, my wedding day, the birth of my first child, moments she knew she would miss. That night, I sat on the porch swing Grandpa had built, reading the letter marked, "When you need guidance." Mom's voice came through so clearly, I could almost hear her. "Sometimes people will underestimate you, Tommy. They will see your kindness as weakness. Let them. There is power in being underestimated. It gives you the element of surprise when you finally stand up and show your strength." I realized then that the greatest revenge against Marcus wasn't keeping the house, although that had been necessary. It wasn't exposing his plans or even forcing him to face consequences. The greatest revenge was simply living well in the space he had tried to take from me, creating a home where once he had tried to make me feel homeless, building a future he had tried to steal. The house my grandfather built that my mother protected and that I had reclaimed was more than wood and nails and legal documents. It was the physical manifestation of my family's love, extending beyond their lifetimes to shelter and support me as I grew into the man they had always believed I could be. So if you are facing someone who underestimates you, who tries to take what is rightfully yours, remember my story. Sometimes victory does not come with a bang, but with quiet determination and the courage to stand your ground. I would love to hear in the comments about a time you stood up to someone who underestimated you. How did it feel to reclaim your power? Be sure to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life stories, and share with someone who might need to hear that they are stronger than they know. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, the place you call home is not just about whose name is on a deed. It is about who holds the space in their heart.